No, no.
Yeah, well, greetings and salutations, one and all. Back again is Career Retrospectives, as Mike gave it away, right here on the Super Review Show Network. I am joined by my two esteemed friends and panelists here discussing all things music. Kyle and Mike, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Doing good. It's been a while, so
Doing good
yeah,
to get. Are we ready to get our reptile feels on? What's going on here? So,
yeah, man, we're
as
ready to do it.
we're ready to dive into it. So, as the title of our podcast suggests, alludes to, whatever is this is a mouthful. I'm not gonna lie, but King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards.
God bless you.
Thank you, Phantom Island. This was a Mike notified of this album coming out. I think it was earlier this year on June 13th. It came out 2025. And Mike, this was kind of like your like last minute throw. Let's see what we can do here. So, what do you got for King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards? Phantom Island.
Well, I've been wanting to check out this band for a while. They've come across my stream quite a few times, and I've seen a couple of their albums in comparison to Beardfish because they kind of sit alongside a similar. I mean, this band's a lot more colorful and a lot more kind of. They do a little more complexity within like different genres than I think Beardfish does. But they were kind of compared to the renaissance of bands who have a throwback sound, a progressive sound with a lot of variation, track to track, album to album. And I think that's what really intrigued me about them. I never really followed through with checking them out, but then, shortly after, Fantano had reviewed this album and had given it, a certain kind of a score and just an overall kind of picture he drew with what they were about, which intrigued me more. And I was just like, yeah, let's do this. So, yeah. So other than that, I have no backlog of their work. I haven't listened to anything else. I haven't really gone to any kind of like research. I've just kind of went into this just with the understanding that they put out a lot of music, and this won't be the end for this channel and reviewing them. I'm sure we'll dip back in either new or even maybe we'll do like an older album. That would be fun to kind of just check it out, see how it fits in with this, and if it adds anything or maybe takes away from what this album brought to the table.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is. I'll go next if that's okay with you, Kyle.
Yep.
I was really more taken back by how it. Again, we had I had never heard of them until Mike said, "Hey, let's review this this album by this band." I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And the first thing I thought of the moment I heard the opening title track, and then the rest of the album, was the first thing I thought of was this a Kinks side project back then? Like, this is the vibe I got from them, or even like a late Beatles career, like White Album kind of vibe. It is very psychedelic, if you will, late 60s feel to it, but with a modern production and modern band doing that style and sound. I was really taken back by it. But the moment that first orchestral stuff came in, and then the guitar lick and the way the singer was singing, I said, "Is this Ray Davies from the Kinks?" Like, if you guys knew who that is, good for you. Dive into their catalog too. They're fantastic as well. They were, but no, this was a really a surprise for me, at least, going into their this album, and then as a band too. But we didn't say this from the start of the show, but this is their 27th album in their career. We're not doing a career discography breakdown, don't worry, but we'll definitely do other albums by them for sure. But this was a bit of a surprise to me. I didn't think I'd. At first, I was like, all right. By the look of the album cover, it looks like a heavy metal or like an art metal, I'm using the wrong terminology, but like a kind of like an album where it could be more like heavier. But no, I got a really good, like I said, a late 60s like Kinks vibe to it, almost like a Lola album string section vibe to the guitars and stuff. It was really, really surprised for me. I don't know where Kyle sits at this, but I mean, where did this end up for you, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as everyone here on my background with the band. I mean, they're a group that I've known about, peripherally for years now. But what has kept me from really getting into them and really checking them out has been there's a certain subsect of music fan that really loves this band that tends to be your more, for lack of a better term, pretentious music critics that, love anything that comes off as experimental and out there. And yeah, they have a huge music output. Generally, a lot of reviewers that love these guys. I tend to not agree with most of it, so I just kind of never got around to this. Having, when Mike threw this out there, having just kind of sampled the first 2 tracks, I was like, oh, this sounds really good. Let's get into this and check this out. I was actually excited for it. When we talk about the actual music, I'll go into my actual thoughts on the rest of it. But, it's a band that my background just kind of goes as far as knowing about them. This is actually my first experience listening to an entire record, actually, let alone, I think, an entire song from the band. So it was definitely an interesting experience.
All right, that's our little background information for this band of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Let's jump over to their track listing and our standout tracks and all that good stuff right about here over here. Mike, why don't you kick it off again? What stood out to you the most? What do you got?
So this is a very big sounding album. It's got lots of things going on with it. Lots of instruments. It's got a very heavy orchestral kind of thing going on with it. And just overall, it does bring that really into the forefront of the sound. Lots of groovy kinds of things. Lots of tracks are doing some cool kind of pace changes. From the slow kind of psychedelic stuff to the more like catchy guitar, tracks towards like with Space Sick or See You Doubt or those. They do those like just the quick riffs that just get caught in your head. They're all over the place. So my standout track for sure was Pan Psych. I really liked that track. I really loved Aerodynamic. Another track that I really liked. Lonely Cosmos. I like the things they're doing in that, what they're going for. Now, something that did not sit well with me on some of the songs. One of my favorite songs was Dead Stick, but it also vocally kind of is inconsistent. There's a couple inconsistent tracks alongside this album. I get more into that, but that was like a really great song musically, but vocally, it couldn't put me there at one of the more higher rated tracks, but still pretty solid, like towards the mid-high. But I just like inconsistencies in the vocals on a couple of these tracks, did prevent me from getting there. But like the layering on this thing, like instrumentally, like sonically, like overall, like the composition, it's just, I didn't realize bands like this like were still making music that weren't old. Like, they have 27 albums, but they're putting out a lot of albums. They're not like, they do give off like those Grateful Dead vibes at times. But they're like not an old band, but they sound like they've been out for a really long time. So it's really interesting how they're blending all those things together and what they're doing. And but for me, Aerodynamic, Pan Psych, Lonely Cosmos, and then I would say Dead Stick still musically is one of my more favorite tracks.
Yeah, and for me, like my standout tracks, are just more like I hate to be so cliche with myself, but the title track was actually really solid in my opinion. Like the moment the strings and the piano kick in there, I was like, man, I'm working for something really, really, really special here. And Mike, I'm not trying to rip off what Mike said, but he's right though when he says that they have put out, this is their 27th album, but at the same time, they actually put out. You would think they'd be around for since like the 70s or something like that, but no, they've been around for. I didn't do too much research on them. I want to say maybe from like the 90s, possibly. I forget. You could fact check me on that if it's a second. But no, like obviously Phantom Island. The first 3 tracks are really solid. First, Phantom Island, Dead Stick, Lonely Cosmos, and actually Aerodynamic. I have to agree with you on that one too. Even the last track, Grow Wings and Fly, that was actually pretty solid too. My one questionable thing about this record was probably the vocals. They were just treated so I could understand what they were saying, but just barely though. So they weren't as like clear as I wanted them to be. Or like I actually when I was listening to it on Spotify, sometimes I had to watch the lyrics just to understand what they were saying a little bit. Because I noticed, there's an explicit tag here. There's an explicit tag there. Why is it so? Well, I didn't know there was like cursing in the song or whatever. So it took me a while to get to actually just sit down and look at the lyrics too as I'm watching. I'm like, the sounds and the lyrics and the composition are really solid overall. I was probably taken back by most of the sound as well, which was great. So, but yeah, like I said, my standard tracks are the title track, Phantom Island, Dead Stick, Lonely. The first 3 tracks were great. Aerodynamic and Grow Wings and Fly are just my big ones that stand out to me the most. I mean, the rest of the album is good, but those ones stood out to me the most. I would say that's probably the ones I would go back to in a heartbeat, no doubt. And like I said, I hate to compare. I don't say hate to compare, but it really does sound like an off Kinks type of project that they would do like in like the 80s. You know what I mean? It sounds like that's the style so much to me, at least, because I've been around that stuff much more than King Gizzard, sorry. But there's so many like izzards in the title, it's ridiculous. But no, it's just the sound is so much reminiscent to me of the Kinks and that style of 60s rock too, which I thought was really great too. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I really enjoyed that stuff a lot. So, but yeah, Kyle's good. But yeah, let's jump over to Kyle after hearing that noise. What do you got, bud?
That would be my phone crashing down. But anyway, yeah, my top 2 to get out of the way here: Phantom Island and Dead Stick. Great way to kick off this album. Now, I love on Phantom Island and Dead Stick as well. Actually, Dead Stick's probably my top of the album here. Completely agree with both of you, especially Mike, on the vocals on this being a major downside. Interestingly, JT, I completely agree with you on sometimes struggling to kind of make out what the vocals were saying. They were almost kind of like buried a little bit in the mix and just had like these weird effects on it it was like buried under these symphonic elements and orchestral elements that were going on, which played to a big detriment to this record for me. I didn't notice it so much on the first 2 tracks as it did as the album kept going on. With that said, my love for the album kind of ends almost completely at the first 2 tracks, whereas I thought these were 2 really fun songs that had a lot going for them. They had the jazzy elements on the horn sections here. They had some catchiness to them, specifically Dead Stick on that one. The guitar riff in Dead Stick, so much fun. It's so good. But then after that, I feel like the album just decides to change things up completely for the most part and say, yeah, that stuff, we're not really doing that anymore. Now here's just a bunch of orchestral swells in every single song. I swear every song past this point has, all right, here's the big orchestral build up and swell behind it. It just doesn't really work for me. It wasn't really my thing. Again, I feel the same way about this album as I did when we talked about Sleep Token's record, where if you like this style, you will like this album. I don't know anything about their other music, but I would assume if you like their previous material, you will probably like this album. If this is not your thing, you'll probably get tired of it very quickly, as I did. About halfway through, I really started to feel that album fatigue and started to think like, oh man, I want something else here. Do something else. And a couple times throughout, you would get that, where you would get another break from that orchestral element to get another like rock and guitar riff for a bit. I just wish they did more of that. So, I mean, for me, those are really my 2 standouts. My least favorites, I'll just kick us off with getting into that real quick. Sea of Doubt, I thought was a incredibly painfully boring song. This is probably the only song on the record that I thought had nothing about it that I enjoyed. Every other song I could pick out elements that I did like, and it just wasn't for me. But this song, I did not like a single thing about this. Same thing, Silent Spirit, not to the extent of Sea of Doubt. It also could have been album fatigue here, kicking in even more, getting towards the end. But yeah, these two songs here, by far my least favorites. And then to round that out, Space Sick. Dumb lyrics on this one. Did not like it at all. The vocals do not sound good. I don't like what's going on vocally. And just kind of nothing about this song really meshes well together. Like there's some cool aspects here and there to pick out, but when it's all trying to come together as a cohesive track, it doesn't really work for me. But yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. The rest for me is just kind of middle ground.
Yeah, and I'll kick in with the tracks I didn't like, and I'm this for the first time. Like Kyle and I are almost we're not on the same page of like that. Lonely, like I think Lonely Cosmos and Panpsych and Aerodynamic are great songs, but that Sea of Doubt, Silent Spirit, Grow Wings and Fly. I did not like that song. No jab at JT there, but like I really did feel like the last three songs. I kind of when I listened to this album, I listened to it from 1 to 7, and then I like stopped because I just got interrupted, and then I remember listening to it again from 1 to like 6, and then came back to 7. Was like, oh, 7's great, and then like I didn't listen to those 3 songs actually for a little bit, and then we got delayed for a week, so I kind of came back and played 7 to 10 a couple times, almost as if like let me like finish the album, and I was actually kind of shocked that like I stopped subconsciously at the part of the album that my brain wanted me to stop at. It was almost like none of that was protecting me from damaging music. I mean, all the music on this album is decently thought out, composed. Like even like to what Kyle's saying, like Sea of Doubt was like you could take it and put it up against a whole bunch of music that's currently getting top rated reviews, and it would demonstrate musically more technique and like song structure and like flow than any of them. But like that doesn't mean that within this album it's a shining star, or if you were to put it up against songs that are actually that we all like within an album, that it would just be good because it's well composed and like constructed with all the elements. Once again, the vocals are buried in the mix, as well as there's other elements that are kind of drowned out by the sonic kind of boom that the orchestrals are bringing. I am an orchestral guy, but also when I do feel like the other parts of the album are suffering from kind of not being able to be fully presented in a clear and concise manner, I think that can be a problem to listen to it and be able to really feel like everything that you want to hear is there. So yeah, again for me, like See It Out, Silent Spirit, Grow Wings and Fly, pretty much those tracks were more at the bottom. You know, Eternal Return and Space Sick were like I'm coming into those mids. Panpsych, Lonely Cosmos, Dead Stick, Phantom Island. Phantom Island's a good introduction. It's getting you ready to what's to expect, and it's a solid track, good driving track. It's got like almost like I picture like a 70s cop movie when I hear this, like two guys cruising in like the city, kind of like looking around, just like there's a lot of things this album brings to the surface, like vibe wise, feelings wise. They do capture a lot of good things. The mix could be definitely its own worst enemy, to the longevity of like all the tracks really working.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're all pretty much in the same agreement that the orchestral movements are really, really solid. Like they're actually really like the Mike. I mean, Mike and I are both saw ELO live, and we're big ELO guys. But like the string sections of these are really, really well done for like being like just a solid like sound in general. Like when I first heard this, like, am I listening to the right like year? Like what's going on here? You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with you guys to a T there. Anything else before we wrap it up? Or are we guys good?
Oh, I think we're good.
Alrighty, let's wrap it up. So, where do we rank it and rate it, Mike? Why don't we start with you?
So I was really conflicted because as I listened to it, it left me wanting more vocally. But then, as I realized, it did contain a ton of music that I really enjoyed, and that I gave it a different kind of like put it in a different kind of place when it comes to the things that it shined in and the things that it didn't, and that like what I was willing to forgive. My original rating was like a 7.8. It was between a 7.5 and a 7.8. I was kind of sitting there. Ultimately, I bumped it to an 8 flat. With like if I were to continue listening to it, could bump it down to a 7.5. But I'm willing to sit at an 8 to say that the band really has created a very and I think this is what really is bringing me to an 8 is that in the current musical generation and the current musical climate we're in, there aren't too many bands who are doing this, who are new. Like, and I say new, I mean as in like not from the 60s and 70s, like that they're actually pulling off music like this, and it and like according to a lot of the people who are talking about the band, that are not repeating the same music again and again and again as well. They're not using like AI, which some of this felt like it was so all over the place that it could have been AI in that it felt like it could just continuously go and never like seem like it gets tripped up or you reuses the same stuff. It kept changing throughout the song and using everything correctly, and I was just like, wow, like you'd think this might be like the next level of AI because of how just fluid it is. But yeah, like because of just what era it sits in, I'm willing to sit in an 8 just by the sheer ability and sound of the album, and that it's refreshing to know that there are bands doing this that aren't just kind of from that era trying to like climb back in and make it popular again. This is happening today from a band who's doing that in this day and age is pretty impressive. So yes, 8 out of 10 for me.
I agree with Mike to a lot of points there. Truthfully, I'm not as high as him, but I will say to a lot of your points that you just made as well. Like I agree. I wish more bands would do like this style more often that are more newer. Like I really like. I mean, I feel like Green Day and like Coldplay and like bands of like the 90s and 2000s, even like Third Eye Blind, if you want to go that far. But like I wish more bands that were at least, or even like Fall Out Boy. Like I wish that more of them would do stuff like this more often, like where it's like they have a throwback feel or a throwback string section or a throwback vibe in general. It's funny listening to this through several times over. Almost reminded me of that Green Day side project we talked about called Foxborough Hot Tubs. A little bit of that too thrown in there too. Like just like I said, if you take like Green Day's side project Foxborough Hot Tubs and the Kings catalog and put them in a modern band, this is in a more modern album. This is how I felt about it.
Also, I got to mention that album cover is amazing. I just want to
share it. I was going to bring that up.
Yes, beat you to it. Woo!
Woo! All three of us actually. The album cover. I know we do the show live on YouTube, but the album cover actually is really, really, really sick and awesome. It's like just lizards and animals going through like on an island. Just it's crazy. It's really cool. If you just Google Phantom Island, King Gizzard and the Lizard's Wizard, you're in for a treat. But needless to say, though, aside from the album cover being awesome, I would say that this album, it has a lot of elements I really enjoy. But again, those vocals, I couldn't hear what he was saying half the time, which kind of dropped it down for me. So as of right now, I'm sitting at a 7 out of 10, a solid 7. Not too much higher, not too much lower, but a solid 7 out of 10 for King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards, Phantom Island. Kyle, where does this rank for you? And where does this
take it away, villain?
Well, you see, if every song was like the first two, it'd be much better. But no, Mike, I agree with you. This when you look at it from a musical standpoint, you compare it to what's around now in a climate of music where we have the same few songwriters writing every pop song with minimalistic instrumentation, very rarely going above like 2.5 minutes in length. You have on the metal side, the metalcore bands of the past decade or so regurgitating the same breakdown for the most part and the same sterile production. It's very refreshing to hear a band like this. It's very refreshing to hear production that, at times on certain pieces is great, and it does bring you like flashbacks, like that classic rock style production, which is cool. I do think it needed to pick it up production wise and mixing wise in terms of like the vocals, bring those more to the forefront. I wanted a little more vocally, even outside of the production elements. I think that it could have done a bit more. They felt kind of just flat and stagnant throughout the whole record. Album art, amazing. Probably the best album art of the year so far. Outside of that, though, for me, again, this is my subjective take here. This is a 4 for me.
Oh,
my style. If it's right in, this is the exact same thing I had with the Sleep Token album, like I said, where this is just not my thing. It's not what I would go to listen to very frequently. Now, having said that, if you're someone like Mike or JT here and you enjoy this style, you will love it. Are the songs objectively well written, well structured, and all that? Absolutely, for sure. This is just my thoughts as far as my own enjoyment of the record went. I felt it hit album fatigue very quickly. Once you got past that first half of it or so, it started to all just kind of blend together and feel like one song throughout a lot of it. So with that, for me, it's a 4 for my own personal take here. But
now, JT,
I do have his strong appreciation for this record and this band.
Can we get his address like flashing over his screen by chance? Like the 3 Lizard, Gizzard, Wizard fans that watch this channel are going to want to pay him a visit. So
you can reach Kyle at the following address.
That's fine.
Yes, you better be careful.
Fine.
You can find Kyle at his home apartment. I'm just kidding. He doesn't live in an apartment. What am I talking about? No, in all seriousness, that's our rating. No, but it's overall we had a good time with this one, right, guys?
Very good.
Yeah,
all right.
Good listen.
Yes, very well. Yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for watching, listening. However you enjoyed us tonight. Thanks so much for tuning to our podcast. As always, we'll be back next week with. Is it Kesha?
Yep.
It's Kesha. Kesha's latest release. Yeah, not your ketchup. We're gonna review.
I thought we were gonna review like types of ketchup. Okay.
Yes,
idea.
Yes, ketchup. We're gonna review the latest Heinz bottle of ketchup that's out on the stores now for July of. But I'll say we're reviewing Kesha's latest release next. She just went out. She's on tour now too, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, Kyle, the Q&A podcast is not back, correct?
Nope. Still indefinite hiatus.
I had to bring it up just for the sake of just bringing it up. You know me, so it's okay. But for all of us here at the Super Reviewshow Career Retrospectives, please stay safe, take care, and
God bless.
Be awesome. And God bless and be awesome.
Be awesome.